Welcome to Selling Circular, the podcast dedicated to exploring the innovative minds and business models shaping our transition to a circular economy. I'm Gar Punnett, CEO of LoopLayer, and we are Sabiraless on this episode. She is traveling once again, but that's all right. We have another great guest with us, Christopher Hale, co-founder of Smartphones Plus. Very exciting conversation. I also, for any viewers, listeners are really not going to notice, but viewers, I'm in a different location, sort of an annual trip we make to the in-laws. So this is just a different, it's almost, you can think of it like my Thanksgiving theme of a room, of a studio. It happens once a year, so it's good to be back. Happy to share more about that in person anytime you want to ask. But today, we're talking with Chris Hale, co-founder of Smartphones Plus, a company that's taking on the tech giants and doing something remarkable yet very simple and powerful, which is giving your old devices a second life. Today, Smartphone Plus operates from their warehouse in Iowa, processing thousands of devices that pour in from across the country. They've built strategic partnerships with major affiliate sites, which we will get into, that drive consumer traffic their way. If it's electronic and has value, they'll take it off your hands, often paying a little bit more than maybe what an Apple or a Samsung or a Verizon might give you through their own trade-in program. We get into the little bit of the economics on why that might be the case. Has to do with what some people might expect, which is fewer middle organizations in that transaction between the consumers and the manufacturers and the distributors. And they've done all of this while competing against some of already the established players, manufacturing programs that we just talked about, and in an industry where margins can be quite razor thin and the market values often change daily. So they found their edge by really focusing on consumer experience, paying their fair prices, and building technology that makes reuse accessible to more folks who are looking at really what are they going to do with their devices. So in today's conversation, we really explore how these three brothers, because it's Chris and actually his brothers, took on this industry dominated by competition and complexity, and why Chris really believes that maybe the AI revolution in devices hasn't even started yet, and how they're trying to position themselves to be kind of the backbone of circular commerce across multiple industries. So whether you've got that infamous drawer of old devices at home, and let's be honest, yes, we all do. I know I'm looking at a new drawer here at a new home, or you're just curious about how smaller players are disrupting big tech's grip on the circular economy when it comes to the electronics. This conversation with Chris is a fun one. We're really just hanging out. We're chatting, talking electronics. It's a really, he's a good hang. So let's dive in. Enjoy the episode.
I'm always trying to connect with people, and it doesn't matter if it's electronics, just the circular economy in general. Anybody that has something to do with it, I just love it because I love learning about other people's. Like somebody was doing something with building material where they would tear down buildings, but try to tear them down in a way so the lumber could be reused and all of this other stuff. So I'm like, well, that's not even something I even thought of that could be reused, but thankfully it is, because that's a great thing to reuse, but it sounds hard. But
Well, I can tell you from my experience, it is hard. And so what's funny about the way you just introed us into this episode is that is actually where I was going to start. I am working, and I haven't totally announced this to the audience yet, but I've got a product coming out next year that's focused on the deconstruction space. So I am very much focused on that field, but that's actually so great that you bring that up, because I was going to ask you a question that kind of started with that, which is, I was having a conversation with somebody this past weekend, and they could not have been more, sorry for the pause here, audience. I'm trying to find the word. They could not have been more like, not negatives too strong, but they basically were like, that's really hard and that's super competitive. Why would you do that? And so so I walked away from that conversation being like, I didn't need that extra doubt in my life, but happy to process through that. And so I wanted to start with this because the iTAD industry has no shortage of competition, no shortage of difficulty. But I think this is an inspiring message in business that you've started. So I'm curious, how did you, and there might be some easy answers to this, but how did you get over that hump to start Smartphones Plus to get to where you are now? Like, what was that origin story like where you're like, God, I have this thing.
Yeah.
And did you just do it and not look back? Like, give me that, paint that picture a little bit for the audience.
That's kind of how it started. I just did it and
Yeah.
didn't look back. But yeah, so how
Great.
it's
So the short answer. Yeah.
right. But the origin story is I had a full-time job. I used to be in life insurance. I was going back to school at the time, University of Minnesota, for my finance degree. I wanted to do something in finance. The financial markets have always been something I've been interested in. Growing up, I always wanted to start a business too. So people want to be a fireman, police officer, doctor, lawyer, the classic stuff. I wanted to own my own business. And as time went on, I more specifically wanted to own a business with my two brothers. So it was the three of us.
Love that. Yes.
And
The
while I
dream,
was
yes.
the three, right. So as I was going to school, working full time, I don't know, I started getting into like thrifting and just looking up all these other business ideas, going to the thrift store, finding all of this, clothing or handbags that were undervalued and then just selling them on eBay. That's kind of how
The sneaky, I like that sort of sneaky intro into that world where you're like, it just sort of opened your eyes a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, nothing's really picking up. I'm not very passionate about like the clothing stuff or anything. And then I was just doing more research and I saw this guy out on the East Coast and he would buy used electronics off of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and then just put them on eBay and resell them. Didn't fix them, didn't do anything. If they were cracked, he just sold them as is. There's repair shops and stuff like that around.
Yeah.
That'll buy it, repair it. They know how to do all that. So I looked in my city here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I was like, there's a ton of people trying to sell their old technology. And I went out, I purchased my first phone. I listed it on eBay. It sold within 24 hours. I made $50 profit and I was pumped. The whole thing took me about an hour from picking up the device, listing it, shipping it out, all that. So I started posting ads on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Hey, I buy phones, I buy electronics. And people kept messaging, calling me, and then referred me, how much can I get for this and that? And it kind of just snowballed. And I was like, all right, if I'm doing this in Cedar Rapids, let me get my brothers in on this too, because they were going to college at the time, University of Iowa. And I'm like, you got to do this with me. Whatever money you guys make, you keep. Whatever I make, I'll keep. And we'll just use the name Smartphones Plus and grow the brand name. And similar to what happened to me in Cedar Rapids with the referrals and all that happened to them. And I'm like, okay, if we could do this in our relatively small cities compared to the national average. I live in this is the second largest city in Iowa, Cedar Rapids, but it's small. It's about 150,000 people, comparative. So I'm like, let's create a website and have everybody all over the United States just mail us these devices because there's clearly there's demand for this.
Yep.
And that's what we did. And then we found out real quick that it's very expensive to market to the whole United States, especially when you don't necessarily have any marketing background with Google Ads or Facebook or any of that. And we didn't have, $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 or more to just go and experiment with to figure it out.
Right.
Months. Like that was a lot of money to us at the time, and it still is a lot of money, right? But, so
different scale now,
right? It's right.
Yeah.
All relative.
It's all relative. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
100%. So we actually had a couple opportunities. I was calling around trying to set some tables to introduce our brand to the local public to just expand more on what we were doing. And I was calling around to places and we ended up meeting some landlords in the area that gave us very, very reasonable like no barrier to
square
entry.
footage. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All that helped us build out the location even. And we got into retail, and essentially what that was, we ended up opening 2 stores. And since then we have closed them since our leases were over with in the last 5 years. But that was kind of our launching pad to get to where we are today. Cause we ran those stores with, maybe an employee or 2 after a while.
Right.
We were still the same mindset, putting all the profit back into the company, growing it. I mean, you hear successful people all the time that start from the bottom to get to where they are today. I mean, it's all about just investing in yourself and putting all the money back into the company and sacrificing the short-term gain for the long-term outlook. And we had that mindset from the beginning. We still have that mindset today. We pay ourselves a little bit more than we did back, 7 years ago, thankfully, but we still don't pay, it's not like an executive salary that you would think because
totally.
We understand the potential that we still have, it's crazy. But That's how we started. And then 2020, um, both of our stores were closed because of COVID. There's the whole month shutdown. And we're like, we had a website, but we didn't have it producing orders yet. So
Right, right, right.
we're back in my basement here working. We're like, let's not just sit around and do nothing, right? Like, let's get this website we've created up and going. And my brother Devin got us hooked up with some affiliates. So there's four websites in the United States that compare who's paying the most for
Okay,
electronic.
we're
Yeah.
gonna have to unpack that. So real quickly then. So actually, can you, before we get to that affiliate part, because I think that's going to be a vector trajectory for
Yeah.
you all.
Right.
So I want to pause. Explain that a little bit in terms of the market of refurbishment, reuse, and recycling, where just kind of paint the picture for how this works for people, because I think that's going to be a little bit of people's barrier where they just know that I turn it into you, but they don't necessarily know the ecosystem of it. Can you explain that a little bit, like how that works?
Yeah. So it's as simple as putting your model in on our website,
Yeah.
putting the
Yep.
device condition,
That's the
shipping.
easy part, because that's what
That's
the
the easy
consumers
part.
care about. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they get paid, right? But what
Right.
happens after that is sometimes not that much, because sometimes say it's just a year or two old phone and somebody's just upgrading because they want a new device, right? So that doesn't you need any refurbishment. We go through, we hook all devices up to diagnostic software that tests them, make sure that they're 100% working, the battery's good on it. It's going to last for another 2 to 4 years for the next person that's going to get it, or it will pinpoint any issues that are wrong with it. And say it needs a new battery. We have an in-house refurbishment team that will put a brand new battery in it, for example. Put a new screen on if it needs a new screen. The camera quality is bad, the speakers are bad, clean them out, put new speakers in them, whatever it needs. And then after that, we're listing them on majority of our items are sold on e-commerce marketplaces, so like eBay, Walmart, all of that. So after it gets through the whole cleaning process where we're removing all the data from the device, we're refurbishing it if it needs it, and then we're physically cleaning it to make sure there's no fingerprints on it, or any dust or any of that. So when you're getting a new device, and then we grade it cosmetically. So we allow the consumer to choose what grade they want. You can literally buy a phone from us that is technically used, but it looks brand new. It has no marks on it. Or you can get one that has a few marks on it, or one that has heavy marks on it, but you're going to get a heavy discount for that as
Yeah.
well.
Totally.
And sometimes it's just on the back of the phone where it's just really scratched up, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
who cares? I'm going to put a case on anyways. I might as well save, $100 because the back's scratched, right? Whatever. And that's how a lot of custom consumers are. Uh, but most people that are new to the industry, they want that phone that's looking good and ready to go, because they just still have that kind of perception of how it's, used refurbished tech. I always say the parallels to this industry and the used car industry are essentially identical. You have new cars, you have used cars, you can go to the mechanic, fix them, put a new battery in it. Lots of times your battery goes bad after 7 to 8 years, you need a new battery. Same thing with phones, except it's about 2 to 4 years. And typically people think they need a new phone, but really they just need a new battery. And that's why it's causing it to be slow or dying fast.
So then, okay. So then that takes us to then on the end of then getting more consumers to turn in phones to you. That's where then, so this is, I mean, I don't mean to be reductive with it. This is going to sound, but it is as simple as get phones in, treat them, make sure they're ready to go, and then market them to the best of your ability to get them a new home, a new pair of hands that's using them. But getting more phones in the door, that does get us to how are you going to do that? And I think that gets us to the competitive landscape. Can you explain a little bit more about the affiliate side of that then, where you're going to get, that's where it seems like you then start to get a little more volume?
right. So the affiliate side, there is in the iTad space, you're right. There's a lot of big players, a lot of new guys coming in, and everybody in between, right? But on the consumer electronics side, there's not very many. Um,
Really?
the
Cool.
consumer, well, sorry, on the individual
Right.
consumer, you
Totally.
said
Individual consumer side.
I meant, yeah, on the individual
Yeah.
consumer. If you go on these comparison sites I'm talking about, or just look it up online, you'll see a lot of, your local repair shops buying stuff back and this and that. But when it comes to companies that are buying back from the masses in the United States, there's really about There's like less than 10 of us that do it consistently and have been around, because my perception when I started this business was, yeah, right. Like there's somebody got this figured out already, like a Verizon, some big player out there. And that's just not the case, actually. The companies that do have it figured out that are similar to us, they're very good companies. I would recommend them as well. But there's a lot of like fly by the night guys that'll come in and think it's an easy industry to get into, because this stuff sells really fast. Like when we list it
Right.
online, as long as we price it right and we create the listings accurately, this stuff sells itself
So
essentially.
they'll make a quick buck, but if they're
Right.
not doing it right,
Right.
yeah, that's bad for
What
the consumer, bad for the
bad for the
industry.
consumer.
Yeah.
So we have this because of those type of people and companies, we kind of have, not us, but just this
Yeah, yeah,
industry,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
bad rep almost, where it's like instantly no trust. So our constant
Right.
thing is like, and it makes sense. Like I don't
Yeah.
blame people. Like you see online, not on our website or anything, thankfully, but reviews of like, oh, this is a bait and switch. Like you just send your device in and they're just going to downgrade it to what should be worth $500. They're trying to give me $100 for it. And I hate seeing that, because that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
killing us. And that's just not the case. As long as you put everything accurate, like we're going to pay what's due to you, because we want that recurring customer. We're not about a one-time
Right.
shot. It's like, I want you to remember Smartphones Plus and come to us for the next 30 years. Like as you're
Yes.
selling stuff,
Yes.
you start selling your Tesla robots, like sell that to Smartphones Plus in 20 years. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to do.
That's exactly right. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it's
Me
going to
either.
be whatever name that might be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, then on the affiliate side, I mean, what does that look like? I mean, is that
Well,
volume?
yeah.
Like who's? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, so there's these comparison sites. They compare who's paying the most for electronics. They're similar to like a reverse scenario would be like a Kayak or an Orbitz.com, where you're looking for
Okay.
cheap hotel and travel
Yeah.
places. And obviously you're looking for the cheapest. Well, on these, you're looking who's paying the most for the electronics. So we got listed, there's 4 of them in the United States. We got listed on all 4 of those back in 2020. That tripled our business that year. We started receiving orders every day going forward. And that's really, really what got us started with the online receiving orders, and really kicking off the online business. And organically, what started happening since then is businesses would reach out to us, school districts, IT providers would reach out to us and say, hey, I have 100 devices, I have thousands of devices. Can you help me with these? Absolutely, we can. Right. So, um,
That's
but yeah, that's
fascinating.
how the affiliates started. And those were the type of affiliate relationships that we built. And that was really successful for us, because those websites, they have all the SEO value. So if you type in, where do I sell my phone? Those sites are coming up. And still to this day, we're still partnered with them all and we have a good relationship with them. We just want to be seen everywhere. If you're looking up, where do I sell my phone? Like maybe we don't always come up on the first page, but if one of these other companies does, you're going to see our name. And then maybe you do another search, and then you see all of our social media posts, because we're huge on posting on social media, videos, all that. So that's another way. But yeah, the affiliates, and then just creating strategic partnerships with companies has been huge for us. And those are our 2 number one marketing. So we don't do a lot of Google ads. We do
Yeah, yeah,
no.
because that's just
Right,
expense on the margin of trying to get
right.
that extra attention. Yeah. What I love about this business is it fits in and the industry in general fits in with where we've seen other circular economy entrepreneurs. They have seemingly a similar track. And I mean this with so much respect, and it's something I'm trying to do myself, which is not think about it too hard.
Mm.
Do the good business, see the opportunity, and then rise to the occasion of just rinsing and repeating on that cycle that's working. And what comes to mind is, someone brought it up again. We had a previous episode of a tire recycler, and they just realized, I can turn these old tires, into a good product. This is Eric Davis, for anybody watching, to go back and watch and listen to that episode. And he basically turned it into a great new product, but he didn't spend time thinking about all of the other competitive things that could be going on with recycling of tires. And I think too many times people in this industry are overthinking what their business could be in this, and then don't end up doing it. And I think you taking that first step on being like, I'm just going to get a phone and see what happens. I keep pushing that on people, being like, if you have a question about being in the sustainability world or circular economy world, just do it. Just try it. keep the day job. Maybe try it.
Yes.
I left my day job. Maybe don't recommend that. That's a little painful. But just try and go do it, and just then try to see how much you can then cycle through and get to that volume and just keep
Right.
increasing that.
That's
So I just see
that's
that as such a through line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't have to take the massive leap and go quit your job or do any of that if you're kind of on edge about it, right? You find something where you can start small, and try it out. And if it doesn't work, try something different. I mean, that's what I was doing. So
yeah. And I think what about that moment where you saw phones? How would you tell another entrepreneur that might see a particular waste stream or material flow? How would you tell them, like, this is how I was thinking about this. This is where I said, you know what, maybe I could do this. What did you look at? What did you read? Was there anything that you could help them in terms of painting that picture for them?
yeah, really the thing was I was looking at how big is the market? What's the total addressable market for this industry? I mean, this is 7, 8 years ago. So I was like, okay, like phones aren't going away anytime soon. And there's more than just phones, there's laptops.
Exactly.
They were just starting to come out. They didn't even have smartwatches, I don't think, actually, until a couple years after I started. And they had like Fitbits and stuff, but it's like I knew I've always known technology was going to be a huge part of our life for basically ever going forward.
Yep.
And
Yep.
whether it is a phone or robots, or maybe we get rid of phones someday and there's some new technology like, you see Meta coming out with the glasses and everyone's coming out with the AR, VR stuff. I think that's going to be the future. They're going to figure out how to get it smaller, smaller, and smaller. And but at the end of the day, I was also thinking like Apple and Samsung, these guys, they make so much money off this phone. It's not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of been that's what my thought process has actually come true, because you see the phones these days, they're not changing. I mean, the camera gets slightly better, the battery life gets slightly better, but at the end of the day, not much is changing.
Well, I am curious about what is changing, and I'd love your perspective on it, which is carriers and manufacturers, without a doubt, probably are going to try to. We have to push back on being, are sort of pushing against their proprietary elements that they're trying to keep to their sales cycle, to their manufacturing. Have you started to experiment with your voice and opinion on that, where you and maybe the players that care about maybe a right to repair, an ability to sort of take that on yourself? Have you started to experiment with that and really sort of try to advocate for those solutions? Because it feels like you're a defense against all of that going over to them, and then them having a little bit more monopolized power on that.
Right. Yeah, I've not been in the right to repair movement too much, but I know the people that do it. I'm connected with them. I've heard them speak at different events. I'm 100% for the movement for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
it goes well beyond the electronics industry
Yes.
as well. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of across the board with manufacturers. Um, I I definitely advocate for it, and you see them, they don't wanna sell much used or refurbished items, because what works for them is selling that brand new device time and time again. The margins are huge, the whole distribution network set up for it, and but at the same time, you can kinda start seeing them trickle it in here and there. You might not be able to go into a store and buy something brand new, but maybe they do have the used or the certified devices on their website. So they are starting to realize there's other players out there doing it, like Smartphones Plus or these other companies, and they're starting to capitalize on it because they want to keep it a monopoly, right? And they want to monopolize it and don't let the little guys have. Why would you let us have it when they can just do it themselves, right? Um, but
What do you think the future looks like on that? I mean, how do you as maybe a top four, as you put it? I mean, really a small number of you all leading the way from an independent refurbishment, reuse, and recycling standpoint. How are you all going to sort of help be the vanguards in that and defend that industry?
yeah, I think it's going to again. I'm
Probably
gonna
just convenience too, probably just for the consumer.
well,
Just
yeah. It's more, I'm gonna go back to the used car market, right?
yeah,
Because it's kind of the same thing. I mean, there's a ton of used car dealerships. There's a ton of repair shops. I mean, I see the same thing happening with the electronics industry, and it already is happening, where you can go buy used, and you're going to just go to Smartphones Plus. I mean, you trust the quality we provide. You know where you're going to get a better discount than going on Apple and buying used. The warranty's the same. You're going to get a 1-year warranty. I mean, everything's starting to be more convenient and more similar, and it doesn't, and with devices being $1,000 plus, and not anything changing in it to make sense to spend that much money, I might as well just get a device 2 years old. It's going to work the same. It's got a brand new battery. It has a 1-year warranty. Oh, and by the way, I'm saving 50 to 60% on it. And it's going to last me for the next 2 to 4 years, just as a brand new phone would. So it's just like a used car. Like, are you going to go buy a 2026 car right now? There's people that will, but the majority of people are going to buy a 2023.
Yep.
Because they're saving so much. Everybody knows when it drives off the lot, it's devalued. And the same thing happens with tech. As soon as you unbox it, it's devalued instantly. It's crazy. The vertical is.
Well, I mean, that's what's wild. I mean, I have dedicated my life to this, and with a podcast, with a business, with trying to consistently think through this. And yet still, I bought a new phone way back when, and I'm coming up on that moment. And I looked through some of your phones, and there was that slight voice in my head that still went, well, I mean, maybe you should buy new. And I had to be the one being like, no, I am going to refuse to buy new on this next device. But it's just crazy, the type of mentality, then how pervasive that is internally, where we've just been so conditioned to be like, oh, we should do it. It's like, no, these are perfectly good devices.
It's true. People still have that perception of maybe something's going to go wrong with it because it's used or it's been refurbished. But I mean, stuff goes wrong with brand new devices too, and that's why we back it by that 1-year warranty.
Yeah.
So if anything does go wrong with it,
then it's like, okay, yeah,
right,
you're still covered. Yeah.
You are in it. So, and it's not like we have that going through some third-party insurance company. We're warranting that ourselves because it's less than 1% where this stuff comes back. It's very.
And I love that aspect of it too, because that's speaking to how you're building your business, which is saying, no, I'm putting the value behind the brand. I don't need all this other type of warranting from all these other people, because it's like, I want them to continue to come back to me over the next 30 years to your point, you said, to get that robot fixed or turn that in, whatever that is.
Exactly.
What would you say is like, if we were to sort of get into how you've learned about this space now, being in it for the couple years and being a disruptor, what did you not know then? What do you know now in terms of how you're operating? I mean, even having a retail location and not having that be as successful or really driving the value, I would love to know a little bit more about that. What are the top things that you've learned being in the industry now?
I've really learned how the whole ecosystem learns behind the scenes. I think a lot of consumers have a perception that when you go to trade your old phone in at your carrier, for example, it's Verizon or it's T-Mobile that is accepting that trade-in. That's not the case. They've partnered with companies like Smartphones Plus, and we are the one. I wish we had a Verizon or T-Mobile. In the future, we probably will, or hopefully we will, right? But the point is, it's not them doing it. It's actually third parties like us doing it. We just pay the carriers. So understanding that whole ecosystem behind the scenes and actually how it works was very interesting for me to realize, and to also understand how much companies say they're recycling all of this technology. When you really look into it, they're just subcontracting it out to another company, a bigger company. So you have to now understand as a consumer, who's doing this much research to when it's something that has no value to them? Basically nobody, right? And are they recycling it correctly, the devices? A lot of times they'll send it over to third world countries. I mean, I've seen in Africa or some of these, third world countries where there's just piles of technology. Kids are rummaging through it. It's a very terrible scene to see.
Yeah.
So you really have to understand that the companies that are doing it and recycling these devices, are they certified? Meaning, do they have an authority above them that are auditing them every year to make sure they're keeping records of where these devices are going? in all of that. And both of those things were brand new to me. I knew nothing about that behind the scenes when I first started, but and then over time, I've really been more passionate about the sustainability aspect of it, knowing that, hey, in the beginning, it didn't feel like I really had a difference in it. I was just doing it to make some side income.
Yeah,
And it
right.
grew into a passion for, well, hey, we're actually getting thousands of devices in a month. Like we have a big impact into this, and not only with the device itself, but with accessories, because sometimes people will send us the cases with it, or old phone chargers, or sometimes they'll even put in extra cases and chargers and accessories because they don't want it to be thrown away. They
Right.
they know at least maybe we can do something with it, and we don't resell any of that stuff typically, but we do either recycle it or donate it locally. Um, and there is some stuff that can't be recycled, unfortunately, but at least we can pick out what we know is going to be recycled and what we know isn't going to be recycled. So then it doesn't cause even more waste, because some people think because it has the recycle symbol on it, it can be recycled. And it means, technically, that means yes, it can be recycled, but only if there's a recycling facility near you that does it. Otherwise, it's go down the stream to that recycling facility and they're literally going to throw it away anyways, which at the end of the day ends up causing more waste with emissions and all that. So if we were just able to throw it away right away or recycle it to the correct recycler, which we love to do, of course, then it's less waste across the board.
And then on that, I mean, that you kind of got to a next question, which is sort of maybe a dirty little secret that you figured out around the industry is like, oh, this stuff can get pretty mucky pretty fast around not necessarily the most transparent thing. And I would love then, though, a little bit more of, because of the way you got into this industry, I don't think, and I'm guessing here, and I'd love to be corrected, I don't think you walked into it being like sustainability, circular economy. Um,
I
so
didn't
I would
know
love
that.
to.
I never knew that term circular economy when I
Great.
started.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that, because when did that hit you? I would love to know, like, when did something click where you're like, oh, this is like a term. This is something that we can identify with, because then I saw it in on your About Us page, and I love
Um,
that you called it out. Yes.
right. When it started a few years after, honestly, it really did. And really what probably prompted it is because we started getting in more and more devices with all of this stuff. I'm like, we can't throw this stuff away. From the beginning, we're sorting out the chargers and putting it in massive bins. And I'm like, I can't throw this stuff away. This is bad. No. So then just doing more research on it, going out to industry conferences really highlighted the issue too, because that was where everybody, the big boys, were talking about it. And it's really where I started hearing those terms. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it might not be on the same level as, these guys getting 100 million devices in a year, but we all have to start somewhere. And if I'm making an impact with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of devices a year, well, that's still a decent portion
Still
of,
huge.
something that I can divert from the landfill. And it's got to start here, because what happens when we are making, having millions and millions and millions of devices come through a year? Well, if we don't set up the right stuff in the beginning, then the management down there, and it's not always going to be me, I'm not even there doing the day-to-day stuff anymore. So this stuff wasn't set up and there was nobody thinking about the circularity or anything, then who knows where it would have led to. But that's
What
how
I
I
love
found.
Well, what I love about that too is, obviously so much pride in starting a business. You're doing something really cool with family.
Yep.
I again, not inserting words in, but I would love that moment where then you started to go, oh, this is actually good. Like, not only are we sort of making money, but this actually can mean something for my local community and recycling, and maybe even now it's got more of a national security element to it too, where we're
Yeah.
talking about domestication of supply chains and these materials. How that must have been a really cool feeling where you're like, well, I
I mean, it
just happened
was.
into something that's really actually good for the planet as well.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, yeah, like sitting in the retail store, and we used to tell people, just come drop your stuff off. Like, we don't, I tell people to this day, I don't care if you go to Best Buy and recycle your stuff. I don't care if you come to Smartphones Plus, please just recycle it. Like,
Just
that's all I
recycle it.
care about. And I remember just getting a whole bunch of like phone cases in, and they were all like brand new, or like barely used, and it's just like a company that didn't need them. And I'm like, we can't throw these away. Let's just put them in a box and let's at least go down to the local Goodwill or the Salvation Army or wherever we can drop this stuff off and allow somebody else to get a very cheap phone case. That's like a high brand, like a $50 phone case, whereas they wouldn't be able to afford it. And now where it's no use to us, we can't really resell it. They're hard to. At least we can give it away and somebody can get it for maybe a couple bucks,
Yep.
And that was a huge moment for me to realize like, hey, okay, there's more than just the phone cases, right? There's the chargers. There's all these little accessories that people accessorize their devices with that we don't have any use for, but somebody out there will. And let's just keep it circular and just keep it out of the landfill. And at the end of the day, it gives somebody also saves money for them too. So
Yeah,
that's huge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's huge. If you could fix one thing in terms of our system that we've built here, in terms of maybe just the general electronics ecosystem, without giving maybe too much of maybe a good business move away, but I would love your take if you have one. We're like, you know what, we're kind of thinking this way, or we would love to fix this. What's that fix? I mean, what are we getting wrong here with why all these waste streams continue to flow? You all happen to be trying to soak up as much as you can, but there's a lot more that still falls through the cracks. What would you change? Is there policy? Is there consumer behavior? What would you sort of say is the fix you're really interested in?
Yeah, we definitely need more education on the topic. That's always the number one thing. And then as much as I hate to say it, I think it does start with the OEMs. It starts with the big guys, letting people know that there is another option out there besides just buying brand new. And I hate to say it because they probably won't do it because they already have they're making enough money off of what they're good at. But that's where I think it starts, unfortunately.
Well, what would be your pitch? I mean, what would I've talked about different manufacturers and different product spaces, and I'm beating that drum to get them to understand that there is revenue to be made in the secondary market. And they likely can't do it themselves. So partnering with somebody who can help them do it is probably the best move.
Right.
I don't want to take this as maybe you saying you're going to do this, or I would be curious if you had a pitch where it's like, if one of those big carriers was like, we would love to sell refurbished products to our customers. Is there a margin play where everyone's happy?
There definitely is. Yeah. We would be more than happy to provide margin to them to allow them to sell. I mean, the margin's there, right? It's there to be had. And that's part of why we're able to sell on marketplaces and other places. My pitch to them would be, hey, completely I don't have a pitch on the top of my head, but
yeah, totally.
This isn't my pitch. This is like what's coming to my mind here, but it would be along the lines of, hey, it's like 100% hands off for you. There's nothing you need to do. Simply listed on the site. It could be as simple as drop shipping, where we're inventorying it. We're handling all of the returns, the outgoing and the incoming shipments, the staffing, all of that. I mean, we're doing it all, and then at the end of the day, we're paying you 5% every time a device sells, or 10%, or whatever that negotiated margin is, right? And we're handling everything behind the scenes, because at the end of the day, that's how a lot of these programs are, or could be handled a lot easier if they don't want to go after it themselves. Now, and they need to, what they need to do is compare side by sides. Brand new device right next to a used device. Maybe it's the same iPhone 13. Here it is brand new. Here it is used. What's the difference between these two? And then you find out, oh, it's fully functional both. They both have a 1-year warranty. The brand new one, you're going to be able to open the seal on it. That's the only difference. And then the used one, maybe it has a couple marks on it, but because of that, you're getting a bigger discount for it. And really educating the consumer that way when it's side by side. And there's really only one market that does that, I think. Cars. You go to the car dealership, you got a brand new one, and right on the same lot is probably that same model that's used. But where else is it the same? Think of clothing. Think of like Nordstrom.
I mean, that's just getting started. I mean, that's really, that is now the next gateway for that type of business model. Is it was used cars and now it's apparel. Yeah.
Right. But even like apparel, and let's correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're like, I think of Nordstrom all the time because they have Nordstrom and then they silo Nordstrom Rack. It's a completely different thing. So
And
they're
that's not even used. It's just,
right.
they're just right. Yeah, to your
It's
point. It's
return goods
always
or out of
away.
stock. Yeah, but they silo it off into
Yeah,
different
it's always siloed. You
places.
know, it
It's
is.
super, you can't go on Nordstrom and see this dress brand new and this dress maybe like 1 year old or a return one.
I
Not
mean,
side
there's
by side.
no, there really isn't. We haven't gotten there except for a couple brands in the apparel space that are now making that
They're
concerted
starting
effort
more.
that
Yeah.
again you would expect. And we look forward to having the Wornwear folks on from Patagonia. But it's like things like that where you can see it on the e-commerce side, you can see it right next to, well, even on the e-commerce side, I guess it's not right next to your point.
Yeah.
It's so
Silo
it's siloed away. Yeah. So that's fair. Yeah. I mean, there's a company that we've had on before, and they're doing some really interesting work. And it's a company called Benny. That you guys actually, it'd be an interesting model to look at that because they have a plugin. And so the plugin that I have on my browser, if I'm ever looking up something new, it pops up and pops in and says, "Hey, you can buy this used." And that's a really interesting model. And so they're doing some cool work on that.
I looked at that, like it's a Chrome extension or something, I think, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
looked into that, and that was very interesting. See, that allows somebody that's thinking about used to actually compare side by side now. But yeah, before that, I don't
Maybe a
know,
partnership in the future. Yeah. There you go.
maybe.
Yeah.
See, that's a good way right there. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Benny.
No, side by side. I mean, that's so critical. Yeah, I mean, to argue against myself on that point, I'm trying to think through, and maybe you could help me with some of the economics there. Maybe you know about this. Is I'm sure there are some preferred relationships with, let's say, an Apple to a Verizon that Apple's paying them for new product to be placed. I mean, do you know anything about that world? I mean, that's where I could see that getting complicated is a major carrier might say, we don't want to interrupt that relationship with Android or with Apple, but maybe a discount carrier would be the first one too that would be like, oh no, we don't have those relationships. We would absolutely be more interested in selling used side
Yeah.
by side with anything new. That would be particularly cool. Anything to poke holes in there in that?
Yeah, and that is kind of the way it is. Like, to your point, I mean, they do have some kind of negotiated deals. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know they get
Yeah.
different spiffs
Right.
based off of the type of device it is. Maybe Google pays them more versus Apple because Google's trying to take market share, and Apple kind of has it all, and
Right.
Samsung has the majority of it too. So they don't need to pay as much when you're selling those phones. And a lot of consumers have that. Um, they think that the Verizons and T-Mobiles of the world are trying to sell these phones. They don't care about the phones. They care about the device, or they care
Right.
about the contract you're
The,
setting up.
yeah, the contract. Yeah.
During
Yeah.
COVID, we actually had all the local carriers referring everybody. They said, go to Smartphones Plus. They couldn't get brand new phones in because of supply demand, and they don't care about the new sales as much. They care about locking them in for 3 years on a contract. Now, the smaller regional carriers, to your point, are more willing to have used devices in there, and it's for
Cool.
a different reason
Totally.
because typically their demographic of people can't afford the most expensive phones out there, right? So, but they still want the nice phone. They still want to
Yes.
have iPhone, but they can't afford the new 17. They can maybe afford that iPhone 14. So they are willing to do that. And I've had some conversations with some smaller carriers to exactly what I was mentioning earlier about drop shipping devices to them, where we integrate our catalog right on their website. So they have our
Yes.
line of inventory, shows on their website, and then somebody places an order just like they would. We get the order, we just ship it out to the customer, blind shipment. Looks like it's coming from the other company, not even from us. Um, and then their consumers are able to get that phone. They're going to stay with that carrier because they're getting a cheaper plan that's affordable, and they still get to have that iPhone or that nice Samsung that they want. Don't have to go with, one of those budget phones, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes total sense. Where do you think the industry, I mean, you could talk very specifically about the refurbishment, reuse, recycling industry. What's the innovation like? I mean, what's next on the curve? Are we talking robotic disassembly? Are we talking about where's AI coming into this? What are you seeing that's going to help you process more phones coming up?
Yeah. All of that. That's all
Okay.
happening right now. It's happening with a lot of the big companies are doing it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
very expensive to get into it.
Totally.
The barrier to entry is very expensive, because, well, there's not very many people doing it, so, but it's happening. I'm seeing it happen. I just saw, I can't remember if it was Assurion or Assurant. They just purchased and bought out some robotics company that was
Wow.
already, um, grading devices. So you put the devices in there, it will grade it, it will show how many scratches are on it and all that, which I think is a great thing because if you're like yourself and me, we might have the same phone and I might say it's in good condition, but you might say it's fair. It's subjective, but a
Yeah.
robot's not. You can just tell it exactly what the definitions are and it will go and grade it however you define.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Just
will clean the devices, physically clean them, and then it can even box them up and get it ready to go back into inventory for sale and pair it with the right charger and make sure that all the data is cleared off of it, pinpoint any issues with it. Um, that's the way that it's going. And I mean, I'm aware of all this. It's just the barrier to entry is still too high, and they're still like working out all the kinks of it for sure. But yeah, within
absolutely.
10 years, I can see us definitely getting into having
And
some kind of semi automation for sure.
and this is that push and pull a little bit for me on technology and innovation in this space, which is I want humans to be involved as much as possible. That's important for our communities. That's important for maintaining um, revenue in these communities to keep them sustaining. However, there's a weird tension that we do have to engage with in the reuse space or the recycling and refurbishment space, which is if we're playing with margins here, what's the cost benefit ratio as we go to we can do more if we have this, and therefore we can expand to address environmental effort, but then how do we, and we need to balance that out with the social efforts and getting more humans maybe differently involved or doing some other task involved and not something that can be replaced. But I just love that that's where our industry is headed, is figuring out that relationship between humans and the work that is automated. And that's where I'm betting that reuse is going to be very important in that future because of the unique nature of working with clients and working with particular volumes and electronics. And as we said in the beginning, especially with my industry, which is going to be building materials, it's going to be it's complex. And I think there's power though in you all are going to have to figure that out too, because that's going to be that's going to be an interesting equation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the big guys are already using, like
Yeah.
Rihanna Assurant, they're already using robotics. I mean, they
Yes.
almost have to. They're getting so many
So
devices
many
in,
phones.
you
Yeah.
have to. And what's going to happen over time is, well, they're going to become so competitive that if us smaller guys than them aren't starting to get into that, there's not going to be any margin left over for us. So but we're not to that point. I mean, I see people coming, you're doing this stuff so manual still to this day. And you'd think that being in a high tech industry would have a high tech processing, uh, processing plant or processing all of this high
Nope.
in a tech manner. It's not. That was another thing that surprised me. I'm like, why? There's so many people in this industry that still will do like buy and sell and this and that, all just on spreadsheets. I'm like, we have to stop this. Like that's been against like what I'm trying to automate stuff as much as possible in terms of like list it on a website, let it be available to anybody, not this back and forth on spreadsheets and manually updating stuff that way.
Yeah.
Um, so
No,
we try to do as least work as possible when it comes to like that manual, like admin
yep.
type stuff that really
Yep.
nobody likes to do at the end of the
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Well, so we're doing more and more with that, but we still need like we're hiring like crazy for people. I mean, we're not with
I saw
robot
that.
automation. It's a little further down the road for
Good.
this industry on
Good.
a
Good.
a
Good.
massive scale, anyways.
Yes. Um, what didn't well, I ask? What are you most concerned about? I mean, what's coming up, or at least what do you love the most? I mean, what's really on the horizon where you're so passionate about something I didn't ask about?
I just love the fact that yes, there's a lot of players in this game that are big, but there is so much untapped opportunity. I cannot some days handle it because I'm like,
That's
where there's so much opportunity that it seems like I mean, if you really think about it, I know a lot of people say this, but like everybody's your customer, but like truly everybody is, because everybody has technology.
Yeah.
And even if you trade your phone into the Verizons or whoever, we still have a smartwatch probably, or a MacBook, or you have headphones right now, for
Yep.
example. They don't
Exactly.
take that in on trade-in, or if they do, it's the same type of trade-in program that we're already providing, except you're going to get probably a worse customer experience because they're using third parties like us anyways, and they're
Yes.
paying a lot less because it has to go through a third party. Um, but really, we've been trying to develop, proprietary software over the last couple of years that's going to allow us to white label a lot of these trade-in platforms. So we can go out and say a Verizon, or maybe there's bloggers, technology bloggers that want to have like a widget on their site to provide trade-ins. We'll be able to provide that to them, give them it's kind of like that affiliate marketing that got us going. We'll pay them a little kickback for sending devices to us, but we're doing all of the, buying it, paying it out, doing all the operations, I guess, around it. And then that just goes along with anything. So the software will be able to really, really be kind of a reuse software in general. We're developing it in a way that it's not only for electronics, it can be used for anything. It doesn't matter if it's clothing, apparel, handbags, jewelry, sports equipment, all of that stuff that is expensive and not everybody can afford brand new. And you hate to see it go to waste when it's really good still. It's just not good enough for that person any longer. But to the next person, it's really good. So we'll be able to provide that software to industries across the board, which we're pretty excited about.
That's huge.
Yeah, and then more with it, we'll be able to provide more opportunities for companies that have a lot of remote employees. So with remote staff, they have to send out computers, laptops, monitors, phones, all of this. Now, what happens when they quit, or what happens when they just need a new device or it's broken? Well, they have some procedures to get it back, but we're developing ways that they can just click a button and ship it off to
Just ship it
us.
right back.
Right.
I love that. That seems like kind of a nice breaking news on our end with this. But when are you guys coming out? Is that a next year thing, or is that a bigger play?
Yeah, that's a 2026 play. That'll be coming
Excellent.
out. Yeah, hopefully by next summer-ish, I would say.
Excellent. Okay.
And yeah,
Hey,
we'll be doing a lot around that for sure. But we're hiring now because we're already seeing a huge uptick in trade-ins. But as soon as that happens, it's gonna just take our business even
I mean,
farther. We're
is the
excited.
trade-ins, is that an AI cycle that we're hitting, where people are trading in and wanting to get these new phones? Is that what you're seeing? Or is this just a normal cycle of trade in and more volume and
Yeah,
just
to me,
growth?
it's pretty much normal right now.
Okay.
It's not, I mean, Apple talks about how they have AI on their phone. To me, it's a gimmick, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's a
totally.
marketing, just using the name AI. I mean, Google has better AI than them, Gemini's better. So, I don't think there's a huge play on it yet. It's going to happen though within the next couple of years with
Okay. Yeah.
OpenAI and, Perplexity. I think there's going to be some, accumulation of, or there's going to, yeah,
A lot
accumulation.
more devices.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to
Yeah.
come out and have a true AI device. Maybe it's not even a phone.
Yeah.
You
Right.
see some of these devices where you can like pin it and then
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be more devices that come out. And I think watching what Meta's doing and Mark Zuckerberg with their glasses,
Again.
he's been
Yep.
working on this for 10 years or more when he purchased Oculus. He's got some big dreams and some big, um, I think there's going to be a lot of
Okay.
unique
Good.
are happening within the next even 5 years. I've seen a lot of changes just in the last year with just people wanting to use AI more and more. But I think something very interesting is going to happen that none of us can even predict.
Yeah, that might be the scary reality too. But I'm glad you're there to meet the physical hardware where it needs to be reused. So
With the
that's
physicalness, yeah.
yes, exactly. Where can the people find you?
Smartphonesplus.com. You can always add me on LinkedIn. I always love talking to up and coming entrepreneurs or established entrepreneurs. I myself love to learn. I never like to be the smartest guy in the room. I like to
Good. Yeah.
always like to learn from others. So
Yeah.
I always love collaboration, even if it's a simple conversation here for 30 minutes to an hour. I just love it. I love learning more about circularity. I love learning what other people are doing with industries that are completely different. But there's a lot of things that we can, pick each other's brain on and just learn more about each other. Maybe you're doing something that I didn't even think about that will help our industry and vice versa. So, yeah, LinkedIn, Christopher
Well,
Hayes, look me up.
Well, I this is not an endorsement, people. I can't do that. But what I can say is I got a drawer of some devices that I would love to send your way. So, yes, I'm excited to do that. Yeah.
Everybody has a drawer. I know you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Every person has it. So yeah.
Good. Christopher, what a joy. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and thanks for having me.